watch the film, you'll see, I haven't named the character, and that's a representation of a wider society. Whether it is a Durga or a Dilruba or Shaheen or anyone, doesn't matter. It is a woman's representation and a global representation.
Inside that very short duration, you have captured a very, very important message. An important message because not only it is relevant, it's very much important to create awareness about an issue that we are not very privy to, because it happens behind closed doors. We don't know. And most victims don't speak up because they don't even understand that they are victims of this
Right.
entire condition. So it's a very important and a very relevant film. So my
Thank
first
you.
question about the film would be, why did you choose to name it Mop, and why did you choose to make the film?
Yeah, well, I mean, interesting, question, because I get asked this question a lot, that why the mob? And as I mentioned in the synopsis uh, of the film, that what's a mop? If you look into the protagonist of this film, her life is pretty much like the mob, where she's been squeezed, and the dirty water, which is her mental thought, is being accumulated in that bucket of murky water, the murky emotions, and nothing happens. It gets accumulated. So, despite of her being trying as best as she could in the given circumstances, she feels pretty much trapped and claustrophobic. That every day, like a mop would squeeze in, or soak in, the dirt. You know, the same applies to her mind. If you take her mind as that bucket, life as the mop, life kind of like squeezes out that murky, emotions, and all those claustrophobic influences of her life, despite her trying as best as she could, but nobody cares. So that's the residue of life which we often leave with, and maybe we and some characters, some women like that, would reflect back after when they are past their prime, maybe in their 60s or 70s, when they're alone, and there's a lot of reflection in that. So for me, that was like little metaphorical, to keep the title as the mop. uh, I just like, it was more impulsive that I chose to keep it the mop. And because out of you know it happened during pandemic, where we all were cleaning up our house, and I was like, that was the same, trying. I bought a mop and I was trying to, like, do it, and then while I was doing it, and pressing it and squeezing out the dirt, it appeared to me that our life is pretty much the same. You're just squeezing out and accumulating, the collection of those, whatever you call the negative emotions. But it's important to throw that away, drain that away.
Absolutely. And because I see it as a very global issue, it's not very local, is it? It's not just that in our culture in India that this is happening. No, it's everywhere, because I think um, wives and women in general are expected to do certain things. They are meant to do certain things. And it was very prevalent in advertisements as well, because we used to get washing powder advertisements with women in the
Right,
picture, that they are supposed to do the cleaning, they're supposed to do the
right.
cooking. So this is a larger issue amongst the, I think, amongst the general population that covers the entire world. It's not just us. But when you were making the film, I understand that you did not name your character because you wanted to have the global appeal of anyone relating to your character as themselves. But when you were making it yourself, did you have someone specific in mind? Did someone inspire you?
Y- Yes, not just one person. I've seen many such characters, in and around my family, within my friend circle, people who appear very tough from outside, and you would think that, hey, what problem would this woman have? She's got a fantastic corporate life. She's living, in an apartment which is a dream come true. What problem should we have? And that's precisely why I chose to plant this story, in a very urban, successful, financially stable uh, ecosystem. To prove a point that mental health, or to even acknowledge mental health, is not dependent on your economic condition.
Why do you think this problem still persists? Why do you think women are still caught in this trap, even though we know that this is a trap that has been existing for such a long time?
Well, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a trap. Sometimes it is about knowingly, unknowingly. you know as you mentioned, you made a reference of that washing powder advertisement as an example. We as a society are taught to think in a way, or made to, or influenced to think in a way. And there are certain definitions or certain responsibilities which are aligned to specific whether to a male or to a female. But for me, it is not that. It's not about black or white. It is sometimes, I'm also guilty, in some cases, the way I may have behaved with my wife. And, to some extent, it is, my way to say sorry to her, part of this film. But again, it is about recognizing at some point, because of certain conditions, anyone can behave indifferently, insensitively, which is how this husband in this film, who I don't show at all, it's only the voice. And it is for the reason I don't show the husband is for people to make their own visual about this character. And and I'm not going to paint whether the person was good, bad, or whatever. It's sometimes you're not bad as a person. It's your insensitiveness. We also don't know what's happening in his life, what work pressures are happening. But we, as especially the from a chauvinism perspective, and a lot of men who watched this film has come back and told me that, hey, I felt guilty. And to me, I never thought about it when I wrote this script. I never had that, view of the audience in mind. And then when I heard them speak, I said, hey, I mean, that's definitely a very important realization, probably, even if there are a couple of people who feel that way, and maybe course correct. Why not? That's a contribution back to the society, that as filmmaker, I'm equally responsible apart from the entertainment value.
So this is a very important point, because you say that some certain viewers of your film have come and told you that they have corrected their course in their own lives. So my question is, what about women? Have they approached you, and they related to the film as well? What
Yes,
was
I
their
mean, we had a
reception?
screening. Yeah, we had a screening of this film, and that screening, the screening happened at a cafe which was owned by a woman entrepreneur, and in South Calcutta. And we had specifically invited most 95% of the audience were women by invitation. And I was very surprised, like, after the film ended, anyway, it's an 8 minutes, 17-second film. So after the film ended, uh, there was, like, a 10 to 15 second of silence before people, started applauding. And I was a bit nervous. And then we had a question answer session. And I think, and most of these women who were there were successful women entrepreneurs who, much like this character, you would think and feel that, hey, what's the problem in their life? They're like, you see them all over the social media, smiling, having good food and good company, having a very successful life. But what's their problem? And there was a lot of the introspection that I heard from the audience, which, one of the ladies said that, it disturbed her. It made her feel, that maybe she could have taken some decisions, some time back, which could have set herself free. It's like, the whole film is on monochrome, and only the last scene, is in color, and that there's a reason why I kept it in that form. And people said that, hey, that bright red color is that the woman, when she's like, leaving her whatever her past and trying to make a new beginning in a new world, is what they also aspire to be. And one of my friends said that, hey, I was so guilty that, this weekend I made the breakfast.
So it's having the desired effect on your audience. But this is very nice to hear because these are in your screening there were empowered women. So that means that they're fighting in their lives every day to reach where they have reached through society. And even though they are educated, they're empowered right now, even they are going into introspection thinking that we might have done something differently in our own lives, and that this film is making them think that way. So this proves that the conditioning in our society since birth has been so far ingrained into our brains that even empowered women have to see this film to understand that certain things are not right, these things should not be accepted. So
Yes. See, not
that's a
only
very
that,
problematic
and
thing.
we often, the assumption is by default, the default brain is conditioned in a way that we think that, hey, educated middle class, higher middle class, or like affluent class of people, these would never be an issue. It will be very open. The conversation should be such that you know these things should never happen. But you would be surprised, or I have been very surprised that I've seen more such behavior in the affluent family. The quest of happiness, or the definition of happiness, is most often being interpreted incorrectly, or attached to materialistic perspective.
But if you have caught that exact moment where the change in the character comes once they realize that this has to be changed, that this is not right, I think that's the exploration of such an important, I would say, point where the mind changes is oftentimes done in literature, obviously, but film is a very, I would say it's a rarity in filmmaking where you explore these nuances of changes that happen in mentalities. I mean, especially in short films, because it's a very short film. And in that short duration, you're showing such an important thing. Did you think of making it into a longer version, or did you always have in mind a short film to
Yeah,
portray
I
this?
always I always had this in short film because, yeah, I like to keep things concise because it's a visual medium, right? So I try to use a lot of metaphors so that otherwise it becomes a radio play or an oral play. The power of visuals is what has always attracted me, as a filmmaker or a student of cinema. If I, that's probably a better way to introduce, or to talk about my love for cinema, is that I've always liked, how can I say more with less?
Mhm.
Like the budgets of my film, like how can I do more with less? Um, so for me, it was very important that they use certain visual elements which can describe the mental conflict in the mind of the character, um, to my viewers, portray that to my viewers. So I never thought that I'll make anything bigger. In fact, the script was like 4 pages, and I was absolutely happy with it. And that's why, if you see, there are very little dialogues. There are probably like 6 or 7 words which the woman says,
Yeah.
and most of the dialogues in the film are off screen,
Mhm.
and that is where I wanted to keep that void. The 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 whole claustrophobic element, as if this lady is in a prison, in a very comfortable prison. She's under house arrest, and she's been thinking about doing this for a while.
Of course. Yeah.
Even everybody around her is so insensitive. When her boss calls her, he doesn't even say hello, greet her, anything. It's very transactional. So her life has always been very transactional while she was trying to find happiness and love.
Another very important point that you mentioned, that film is a visual medium. First and foremost, it's a visual medium. If something is completely explained, as we see in most films or TV serials right now, you can close your eyes and you can still follow the entire story. It doesn't matter that you don't have to see anything. So
Right.
what's the point in making a film if you can put everything on dialogue and you can just close your eyes and understand the entire story? So
Right.
you have made something, I would say, rather very important and in that scope as well? And do you plan to keep on making films that are more visually representative than having a load of dialogues that can be done away with? Do you want to keep
Yeah,
continuing this in future?
yeah. I mean, this is what I, this is how I want to express myself or through my characters or my, because it's sometimes you don't need to say a lot, when it is not required. You don't need to explain the visuals. I like to leave it to audiences' imagination through small metaphors to make, to balance the equation. But that's to me, that is filmmaking, because I want to show things. I want people to interpret. If there is rain, there's a reason there is a rain. If somebody's walking down, there's a reason. So, everything, in terms of visuals, what's the camera angle, what's the lens that you're using, has an effect on the mind of the audience, or needs to have an effect on the mind of the audience. So my way of working will always be like, very little dialogues, or where necessary. But otherwise, like, let the visuals, tell the story.
Yeah, because silent films are almost coming back in a certain way. I think I saw the Gerard Depardieu film a few years ago, which was silent. No, but more than that, I think silent film begets a new sort of challenge, which is, I think, the one who's on screen, their acting has to be incredibly good because they cannot express themselves through words. They have to express themselves through reactions and emotions and certain inflections in their expression, which I think is impossible if you're not a good actor. So how was it how was it like working with your actor, and how did you two form a dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky, the lady who acted, Shravanti, she's a very well-known theater personality. She's done a lot of work, commercial work, which is on the OTT platform, and in films. But she is, and she's a trained dancer. She's a professional dancer. And because of her years and years of training in theater, um, I think I was lucky to get introduced to her through my associate director and through my, couple of friends who were part of the crew of this team. And I, before I casted her, I did a bit of a research, on her, the kind of like, work she's done, a little bit on her personal side. And I felt that she would be able to relate to this particular character. And she was amazing. I mean, she's such a gifted artist that, it was an honor to work with her. And I was extremely proud that she said yes after reading the script. Even for this film, we did pre-production for almost 2 months. We tried to, like, be very methodical. I mean, I use Studio Binder, where we do the shot division. Not only the shot division, we attach the storyboarding on it. So we do a location Reiki, and we put all the shots that we want to take using a phone camera, and take pictures and put it on Studio Binder, including we also, have discussions with our DOP, and we also add the lens that we want to use. So when I'm shooting, it is just execution. So, and as a result of that, we spend a lot of time discussing the mindset and how we want to depict, or that mindset of the character. The focus was never the face, but the mind of the actor, or the character.
Do you want to showcase this film in certain women empowerment centers and such? Because I think it is a film that has the potential to bring in some change. You want to do anything like that?
Yeah, if there is an opportunity, why not? Because if it like, can inspire, if it can like make people realize, or at least like, trigger certain realization, I'll be more than happy. I mean, I do not personally have any access, but if there is anything that you feel you can, like, make a connect, or find, take this film, or can help us showcase this with a few women empowerment group, more than happy to assist, and it'll be an honor.
Yeah, because not only in women empowerment centers, but also in, I think, educational institutions where students who are yet to reach the cusp of adulthood should see this film and get an idea. I think they get to see certain films like Pink, nowadays, which
Right.
are very important films. And seeing this also, I think, would make it more relatable, because Pink is out there. It is
Right.
not that close to us, is it? It's got Amitabh
Right.
Bachchan and everything, but this film is close to us.
The faces that appear most open, most liberated, sometimes could be um, the person who's inflicting, some of these pains knowingly or unknowingly. It's so that, the whole chauvinism part is something that also needs to be accepted, and we need to sometimes, you know, work towards being less insensitive. I'm not saying that, anybody can have a bad day. For all that matters, I may even want to do a sequel with the husband now coming in the forum, and you may see that, the guy was behaving that weirdly because he had a tough day at job, and then because of COVID he was retrenched. It's just that his expression was different. And sometimes those expressions are, you express yourself in a way, and certain things happen, and which are very difficult to correct them, set them, back in order. So, I'm not saying the husband was bad. Sometimes it's just the way you are taught that this is how you should behave. That is, a representation of power or strength, is what you try to hold on to, that ego. And that destroys a lot of things. It's sometimes that simple default behavior or mental makeup that we all grow up, or most of us grow up with, and then we represent, or the ramification of that is sometimes not very easy to control or to set in order.
A very interesting point about the second part. If you can actually make that, it would give a good Rashomon effect for this one incident. Would love to watch that as well. Um, yeah, because perspectives are always different. And so, I mean, thank you so much for giving us your time. Thank you so much for talking with us. I just leave you with one last question. Not a question exactly. I'd love for you to tell aspiring filmmakers something that you think should push them over the edge and make them go into the point where they start making their first film. Is there something that you want to say to those people?
Well, I mean, before me, Mike had said that. So, just do it. Just don't sit on the fence. If you feel that you want to express, don't, sit and ponder in terms of whether it is right or wrong. It's your view. And I think that's most importantly. I mean, you don't need a lot of money these days. A good mobile camera is good enough to shoot a film. The digital technology has evolved so much that there's so much that you can sharpen on the post. I would also encourage the aspiring filmmakers to not just look into the creative side of storytelling, but also understand the technicalities behind how the stories are executed. And that will help you a lot. And I think that will help you connect better with your audience, so that what visual um practices may able to evolve or emote a better emotions, and relate better with the audience. So focus a lot in terms of also trying to understand the technical elements, how editing works, or how the story moves from point A to point B. But all that you will pick up. I mean, I always say that it's okay to make mistakes. There's no train smash. So just if you feel that you want to tell a story, don't worry about how good the story is, how bad the story is. That's not for you to decide. You want to do it, you be prepared. Before you shoot the film, do your homework, and listen. Sometimes heart should prevail over the mind. So
That's
that's all I had to say, and thank you
I
so much.
hope we get to see a lot of interesting films after this, because it is actually very, very inspiring. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you so much for having me in your show. It's was lovely, chatting to you, and I hope to, do this in person, having a nice
Absolutely.
anta over a cup of coffee or tea, and
I look forward
just
to
look
it.
at things from a different perspective.
Yes, definitely, because we have a lot to talk about. It just doesn't end here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, and keep bringing up good work that you and your team are doing. It's also inspiring. So good luck and keep inspiring.